Welcome trainers to the ultimate guide for Machamp in Pokemon Unite. In this video, we will be going over each and every move you can learn with this Pokemon, making recommendations on the best moveset, which items you should pick up, and finishing off with some hidden mechanics and stats that are not well explained in-game. Be sure to stick around for that last part if you want to truly master this Pokemon. Now let's get straight into it for today. At level 1, we do start as a basic Pokemon, Machamp, but don't count him out. He has some nice moves in Karate Chop and Bulk Up. At level 1, we're going to take some Karate Chop for some early clearing damage as we clear those aweomse on our way, and Karate Chop simply attacks opposing Pokemon with a sharp chop. At level 3, we get Bulk Up, which should not be slept on and is much better than most people realize. After using this move, the user becomes immune to hindrances for a short time, which is very effective against any Pokemon that is trying to do that in the early game. Its movement speed and attack are both increased, so it can be used either to clear the gap or to run away in that early game, and getting that attack boost is oftentimes overlooked and underrated. It also makes your next basic attack boosted, as well as increases your basic attack speed. So essentially, anytime you are running into any kind of engagement in that super early game, you should be popping that Bulk Up to get a myriad of nice bonuses, and then using Karate Chop afterwards while your attack is then boosted. Now at level 5, we turn into Machoke, and we have our first big decision on the build. Machamp and all going into Machoke have really two builds that we're going to talk about today, and I will call them the critical hit build or the high movement build. At the moment, the critical hit build is certainly stronger, so let's talk about that first. In the critical hit build, you should first pick up Submission at level 5. Submission increases the user's movement speed and makes it immune to hindrances. When this user's next basic attack hits, the attack deals increased damage and slams the opposing Pokemon onto the ground. This is one of the most notable moves in Machamp's kit, and if you get hit by it, you certainly know, as it flings you behind Machamp. When whatever direction he is tracking you down from, you will be slammed behind him, and it also gives a half-second stun, which is quite a long time actually in this game. So, and here is why this is a part of the critical hit build. Once this move ends, the user's critical hit rate and basic attack speed are increased for a short time. Upgraded to Submission Plus at level 11, this further increases your critical hit rate and increases basic attack speed. So Submission is the best move right now because overall the critical hit build is better, but also the reason Submission is very effective is if you are good at it in team fights, this can be used to isolate and take down any Pokemon in the other team. If used at its best, it can be used to grab whatever Pokemon is an attacker or potentially a support, isolate them out in front where your team can jump on them and get the early kill. And it's also just a powerful move, and getting immune from hindrances and a move speed makes Machamp one of the hardest Pokemon to slow down or keep from going where he wants to go. Now at level 7 in the critical hit build, we are going to take Cross Chop, which is the stronger move of the two at level 7. Cross Chop has the user deliver a double chop with forearms crossed while dashing forward. So this is a dash that is dealing damage as well. This also again increases the user's critical hit rate, and upgraded at level 13 to Cross Chop Plus increases attack with each basic attack up to a set max, which we will get into the specifics of that in the hidden mechanics section. Now again, Cross Chop is simply a high damage moves. With the combination of Submission and Cross Chop, you have incredible mobility to track down anyone you want, and your critical hit rate just goes absolutely insane when you combo these two together. Now let's backtrack a little bit and talk about the high mobility build. Now while I am saying that the critical hit build is best, this is a game that is constantly changing and upgrading, so be sure to check the description below, and if there are any changes or buffs or nerfs that make it so the ideal moveset has changed, it will be at the very top of the description below, so be sure to check that out before you leave this video. Now at level 5, if you are taking the high mobility move set, which I think you should take if you're planning to jungle with Machamp, which I don't think is the best option, you are going to pick up Dynamic Punch first. This has the user jump to the designated location, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon in the area of effect and leaving them unable to act while it hits. So this is a nice stun, and the reason you pick this up in the jungle is because it is actually a jump and can go over obstacles as long as you have the right range, whereas something like Cross Chop will hit the wall. well. So Dynamic Punch is pretty nice. I think it is the easiest build to use. So if you're a beginner, I do recommend you probably try picking up Dynamic Punch first. It gives you a nice little stun and has pretty decent damage. It makes clearing the bees or clearing wild Pokemon pretty easy, and so Dynamic Punch is certainly not a bad move. It just lacks compared to what Submission can offer you. At level 7 in the move speed build, you're going to take Close Combat. You could still select Cross Chop as well, but Close Combat I want to talk about just so we know what it does in case I said the game changes. Close Combat unleashes a series of punches in the designated direction, dealing increased damage with the last punch. The user can move while using this move and becomes immune to hindrances. Again, this is a big theme with Machamp being immune to hindrances, so that he's really hard to slow down. He can really go wherever he wants. Close Combat is pretty nice. Again, very good for clearing bees or clearing wild Pokemon, but without the ability to crit rate, and its stats are just not quite as good as Cross Chop at the moment. But at level 13, it upgrades to deal increased damage to Pokemon that are afflicted by a status condition. This could be nice if you have some synergy that you are intentionally working with a team. Maybe you're pairing with a Venusaur or a Gengar who's taking their moves that can deal infliction, but that's not until all the way until level 13, and so you're just taking off too much at the moment by not choosing Cross Chop. Now at level 9, regardless, we're going to get our Unite move, Barrage Blow. This is an awesome flurry of punches. It increases the user's move speed, attack, defense, and special defense for a short time. I recommend when you pop this move, don't actually use the second activation right away. Use these boost as long as you can before your timer runs out. If used again, it unleashes a massive combo attack, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon in the area of effect and shoving them. The final blow deals an especially large amount of damage. Again, we don't know how much that is, but we're going to get into those hidden stats at the end of the video to better understand this move. Now let's start taking a look at item builds, and I think I have 2 builds for you today, both that are pretty good. If you're taking the critical hit build, I highly recommend you take the Scope Lens and the newest item, the Razor Claw. Both of these are just obvious choices increasing that critical hit rate, allowing you to deal even more. Now in this build, I think you have 2 really solid options for that 3rd slot based on your playstyle. I prefer to play with the Buddy Barrier. It is the end game teamfight item. It's improving your health quite a lot, and it's just one of the best items in the game no matter what. I've also seen a lot of people playing with a lot of success with the Score Shield. This is great if you want to be aggressive in the early game or if you want to try to sneak in some points. I just personally don't play well when I'm playing that aggressive early, but if you're good with Score Shield type Pokemon, that is certainly a great choice here on Machamp. Now, let's get into those. Before we do that, let's take a look at the alternative item slot build that I think you could choose. All 3 of those or 4 of those are very good. But if you're going for a more movement-based kit, I think you could also do well by taking the Muscle Band or the Focus Band or any of these items we've taken. There's a lot of viable options right now. Let me know what you would take in the comments section. Now, let's jump into some hidden mechanics for this game so that we can fully understand what the heck is going on with this Pokemon. The first thing to note is that only basic attacks and Cross Chop can actually critically hit. So if you're not running Cross Chop, be sure that you're not taking the critical hit items like the Razor Claw and the Scope Lens, because they're just not going to do as much. And also with each evolution, meaning at level 5 and level 9, your hit rate increases naturally either way. Let's also take a look at something that is shown in the game but not explained super well, and that is Machamp's passive ability, Guts. This increases your attack by 10% for 5 seconds when you are inflicted by a status condition. I think this makes Machamp a really viable option in lanes, specifically against a Pokemon like Cinderace that must deal a status to you even to attack. And it's nice to know that it's 10 seconds and it has 5 seconds on with some amount of cooldown after that. Also, let's look at the basic boosted attack for Machamp. It becomes boosted with every 3rd attack, dealing increased damage, and it also gives you a nice movement speed debuff on the enemy. And boosted attacks deal 150% of your attack to the enemy Pokemon. Something to note with close combat is that the damage is dealt on a per hit basis, so you have 4 hits dealing 59% of your attack plus some modifiers, and then you have a final hit which is a 177% attack plus some modifiers. Now this also at level 13 increases damage if the enemy is inflicted with a status condition. Now let's also talk about the level 13 upgrade of Cross Chop is not very well explained. Once you reach level 13 and use a single Cross Chop, or even when you upgrade it I think, Machamp's basic attacks actually give you a stacking buff that just naturally increases your attack. And it increases your attack by 2 every time you hit any Pokemon, including wild Pokemon, up to 40 times. So for a potential of plus 80 attack after you get it. So effectively you're getting a almost mini attack weight in a way at level 13 when you're taking Cross Chop, which is quite nice. Now lastly, let's take a look at the Unite move, Barrage Blow, which we have some really good stats on by going to unite-db.com, which is where you can learn all the great things about this game behind the scenes. So Barrage Blow increases Machamp's movement speed and attack by 30%. It increases defense by a flat 200 and special defense by a flat 200, while you are charging up for that main big blow. It deals damage to the enemy of effect and also shoves them, and the final blow deals double the damage of the previous hits, so the final blow's damage is determined by how much you hit on the first shots. So you get 6 punches at 100% attack plus some modifiers, and then for however many of those hit each Pokemon, they then receive double that amount of damage on the last Mega Punch, which is pretty obvious on the screen once you see it. Now I think Machamp is an underrated Pokemon and has a lot of potential to be really good, and so we'll see where the game takes him as we receive other Pokemon and buffs and nerfs and items and things like that. So I hope this guide has been helpful to you, and I hope that your next battle is your best one yet. Good luck out there, my friend.